It is 5:35. Calexico City Council, Calexico Redevelopment Successor Agency, and Calexico Financing Authority regular meeting agenda. This meeting is being called to order.
Councilmember Garcia,
Aye. Here.
Councilmember Romo,
Here.
Councilmember Ureña,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno,
Here.
Mayor Arreola Fernandez.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
Okay, the meeting is going to be called to order for closed session. Do we have any public comments?
Not for closed session, we do not.
Okay.
Mayor, we do have one addition to closed session. We would need a vote from the city council. It'd be for the city manager evaluation to add it to closed session under number 2. Yeah, so we would need a motion to add that.
Yes.
Motion and a second.
Do you have a motion?
Correct.
Second.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Councilmember Garcia, Councilmember Romo,
Aye.
Councilmember Ureña, Mayor Pro Tem Moreno,
Aye.
Mayor Arreola Fernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. So now we will be going into closed session.
Thank you, Mayor.
Ready? Good evening. This meeting is being called to order. Calexico City Council, Calexico Redevelopment Successory Agency, Calexico Financing Authority, a regular session, and it is 6:32. So this meeting is being called to order. Roll call.
Councilmember Garcia, Councilmember Romo,
Here.
Councilmember Ureña,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno,
Here.
Mayor Arreola Fernandez.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
Okay. Pledge of allegiance. Mr. Moreno, will you lead?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City of Calexico mission statement. Chief Gerardo, will you lead us?
City of Calexico mission statement. Together, we pledge to provide effective and efficient services in a courteous and respectful manner to improve the quality of life for all in our unique border community. Viva Calexico.
Innovation, Pastor Zazueta.
Good evening, everyone. Let's bow our heads and ask the Lord's blessing upon this meeting. Father in heaven, first of all, and God, we are a blessed people, God, because we can approach your throne of grace because of what Christ Jesus, our Lord, has done. Lord, we just celebrated Easter, celebrated Resurrection Sunday, God, and we know that you are alive. You're a God that answers and hears prayer. You're the God in heaven that knows the hearts of men, Lord. And God, tonight we would ask, God, in faith, that you would bless the meeting here tonight. God, that the decisions that would be made, God, would benefit and bless the people of this city. So, God, I pray for a blessing here tonight. God, we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Closed session announcements, please.
Yes, Mayor, I want to report that city council been in closed session. We did receive direction, but no reportable actions were taken. Thank you.
Now moving on to approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to have the agenda?
I'll make a motion for the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Councilmember Garcia, Councilmember Romo,
Aye.
Councilmember Ureña, Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Moreno,
Aye.
Mayor Arreola Fernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Presentations. Presentation by Imperial County Deputy Chief Executive Officer Esperanza Colio Warren regarding the COVID-19 rent relief program. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Esperanza Colio. I'm the Deputy CEO for the County of Imperial. And today I have a presentation for you and mostly for all the residents of the city of Calexico regarding an opportunity to apply for rental assistance program, which has been managed by the state of California. Due to COVID-19, the state of California received funding close to $1 billion to distribute those funds in the form of rental assistance for all those individuals that somehow were impacted by COVID-19. But there's also some changes to the program that would allow also to those individuals that are low income, they are behind the rent, the delinquent and the rents, to be able to pay for those delinquent rents. And I'm gonna go briefly to the explanation. But I also want to open the opportunity to also make the presentation in Spanish, like a combination English and Spanish for those Spanish speakers. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Esperanza Colio, trabajo en el Condado de Imperial y soy el adjunto del Ejecutivo del Condado de Imperial. El día de hoy traigo aquí una presentación que está disponible a través del programa del Gobierno del Estado de California. El programa es para asistir con rentas a aquellos individuos que han sido afectados por la pandemia, pero más que nada también para aquellos individuos que por alguna razón se hayan atrasado en sus rentas durante el año del 2020. El día de hoy haré una presentación lo más simple posible para que ustedes la puedan entender, pero también les voy a proveer una información donde se pueden ustedes contactar. La página de internet tiene diferentes idiomas y pueden accesarla muy fácilmente. The first slide, please. It's actually the second one. The second one. That's the Spanish word. Okay, so I'm sorry. You want to go back a little bit? I'm sorry. So one of the things that I want to explain first, if you go back to the English version, so you're going to see two names all the time for the program. And the first one is known as ERAP. ERAP, which is the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, the previous one. That one, known as ERAP, that's at the federal level. So sometimes people will confuse the program because in the state of California, it's the same program, but in the state of California, it's known as the California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands, not thinking that, oh, I'm applying for this one and I'm applying for the other program as well. It's the same program, different levels of government. Next slide, please. And those are the ones in Spanish. El programa que ustedes tienen arriba, Programa de Emergencia de Asistencia de Renta, también conocidos como ERAP, ese programa es a nivel federal, pero no es nada más que el mismo programa que está abajo, que es conocido como el Programa de Ayuda con la Renta de COVID-19 de California, es el mismo programa. Así que probablemente eso cree confusión para algunos individuos que crean que son dos programas diferentes, es el mismo programa. Next slide, please. The County of Imperial was set aside out of the $1 billion that is available at the state level. Imperial County has a $13 million allocation for rental assistance. Under this program, the state of California will be managing the program. The funds are not going to come to Imperial County directly. They're going to make it available for Imperial County's residents that are eligible as long as they are low income. And I highlighted the areas over there in the chart that you see, and they have been impacted by COVID-19. But the state is also making this program available for those that are not necessarily impacted by COVID-19, but they are just delinquent in the rents as long as they are income eligible. So, for example, the chart that you have over there, depending on the size of the family, let's pick one, for example, a family of 4, which is the most common family number. A family of 4 to be eligible for the program, you cannot make for a number for people more than 55,900. This is 80% of the median income in Imperial County. Median income in Imperial County is 70,700. So anyone who wants to apply for this program must make less than that amount. And the chart is available for different size of families, from 1 to 8. And if you have more than 8 in family members, you can contact the state so they can provide you assistance and identify you whether or not you're eligible for the program. Next slide, please. El programa de asistencia de renta en el estado de California está disponible para las familias de bajos ingresos. Originalmente el programa estaba disponible nada más para aquellos individuos de bajos ingresos que habían sido impactados o que han sido impactados por el COVID-19. Sin embargo, el programa ahora también está disponible para aquellas familias o aquellos residentes que por alguna otra razón se hayan atrasado en sus rentas. De tal manera que aquellos individuos que hayan solicitado fondos de desempleo y otros y estén dentro de esa área amarilla en la tabla y dependiendo del número de familia pueden ser elegibles para el programa. Tomando un ejemplo, el número 4, por ejemplo, arriba de 4 miembros de familia, que es el más común, una familia de 4 no puede hacer más de $55,900 de ingresos al año. Eso es muy importante para el Estado porque solamente de esa manera pueden ustedes calificar. El promedio de ingresos para el condado de Imperial es de $70,700. Cualquier individuo haciendo menos de 80% de esa cantidad es elegible, pero también depende del número de familia. Por ejemplo, si son una familia de 3, la familia no puede tener ingresos de más de $50,350. Ahora bien, si por alguna razón su familia es más grande de 8 personas, ustedes deberán de contactar al Estado de California y les voy a dar el número al final de la presentación para hacer las preguntas y saber si son elegibles bajo este programa dependiendo del número de personas que vivan en su casa. Next slide, please. So how the program works. This is the tricky part. So the program is available for tenants that meets the criteria, low income and having a hardship paying the rent. However, the landlord, the person that you pay the rent to, must agree to forgive 20% of any unpaid rents, which means the following. So let's say, for example, last year, during the periods of April 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2021, only in that particular period, nothing else. If I was behind $10,000 in rent, if my landlord agrees to forgive me 20% of those $10,000, which means $2,000, my landlord can get up to 80%, $8,000 of rent paid directly to them. No funds will go directly to the tenants, the funds will go directly to the landlords. Whether the landlord is a company or is an individual, as long as you have an agreement, a rent agreement. And it's very important that you have the proper documentation to show that you have a contract for rent and that you're gonna use this funding to pay your rent. Now, there will be instances in which the landlord decides not to participate in the program because some landlords might think that they can get the 100% of the rents unpaid, right? And that's okay. Unfortunately, the tenants will only be eligible to apply for 25% of the unpaid rents, which means if you owe $10,000, only 25%, $2,500 will be able you will be able to get assistance for 25%, and that 25% will go directly to the landlord, not the tenant. The benefit also of this program is, and this is in the works already, is that, so let's say that you apply to get your delinquent rent paid from April 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2021. What happens in the future for the future rents? So we're in April now, right? And some people, they're still not working, or they still have challenges, right? So they can apply to the state and they can get up to 25% of the monthly rent paid under this program, and up to 100% of the utilities bills paid for the next 12 months. And that's why it's important for the community to understand the program. Not just the program is paying the delinquent rents, but also they are paying the future rents up to 12 months, and the utilities as well. The utilities is not available retroactive. For delinquent utilities, it's not available, but only the rent. However, for the future, it's rent assistance up to 25% and up to 100% of the utilities assistance. Next slide, please. ¿Cómo trabaja el programa? El programa va a poder pagar a aquellos dueños de casas o de apartamentos. Les va a poder pagar hasta el 80% de las rentas que no hayan sido pagadas. ¿Qué quiere decir esto? Que, por ejemplo, vamos a suponer que debemos $10,000 de renta por el periodo de abril 1 del 20 al 31 de marzo del 2021. Nada más durante ese periodo las rentas que estén atrasadas van a poder ser cubiertas hasta el 80%, siempre y cuando el dueño de las casas o de los apartamentos esté de acuerdo en perdonar el 20% restante de las rentas que no han sido pagadas o que estén atrasadas. Ahora bien, va a haber circunstancias en donde este dueño de las casas o de los apartamentos no quiera participar en el programa. En ese caso, los residentes pueden también aplicar al programa, pero solo recibirán el 25% de sus rentas no pagadas. En el caso, por ejemplo, que les mencionaba de $10,000 en donde ellos estén atrasados $10,000 de renta, si el dueño de la facilidad o de la casa o del apartamento no quiere participar, nosotros podemos obtener hasta el 25% de esa renta pagada, atrasada. Los pagos no serán hechos directamente a los residentes, se irá directamente a los dueños de los apartamentos o de las casas. El programa también ofrece ayuda con futuras rentas, lo que quiere decir, por ejemplo, una vez que ustedes pasen ese periodo de 1 de abril al 31 de marzo del 21, ya estamos, por ejemplo, hoy en abril. ¿Qué pasa ahora en abril? Algunas personas todavía continúan teniendo problemas para pagar sus rentas. El gobierno está abriendo este programa, lo está haciendo disponible también, para que ellos puedan solicitar fondos de hasta 25% de sus rentas mensuales, pero adicionalmente también pueden recibir los residentes hasta 12 meses de utilidades, del 100% de sus utilidades. Las utilidades casi siempre van a incluir agua, luz y gas. Entonces es muy importante que apliquen, que soliciten estos fondos, porque el programa, si no se utiliza, and that's something that I forgot to say in English, si el programa no se utiliza, los fondos se irán a otros condados. One thing that I forgot to mention in the English version is that if the residents don't apply for the $30 million, those funds are going to go away to another county. So the last thing that we want to do is allow them to go to another county. It takes a lot of work to get them over here. City owner.
Question on the utilities.
Yes.
Does that apply to the future or from the beginning?
Las utilidades nada más serán para el futuro. The utilities are only for the future utilities. So you first are going to apply for the delinquent rents. Primero solicitarán las rentas que están caídas, primero que no han sido pagadas, que están atrasadas. Y una vez que completen eso, entonces solicitan el 25% de renta para el futuro y el 100% de utilidades para el futuro. That makes sense? Next slide, please. So the website, which you're going to have the link at the end of the presentation, we're almost done. They're going to ask you 3 questions. If you answer to all those 3 questions, if you check the box, that means you're eligible. If you're not checking the 3 boxes, that means you may not be eligible for the program. So the first one that's an easy one. You have to be a resident of Imperial County. Your house has to be located in Imperial County, in California, to apply for this program. Now, this program is available throughout the state of California. So someone else from Riverside, they can apply, but they're going to get the portion of the allocation for that particular county. So that's number 1. Number 2, The individual, the applicant must show that they have reduction of income due to COVID-19, or they have excessive expenses during the year that makes it a hardship for them to pay the rent, or they have applied for unemployment. If there's something else that says that you were impacted by COVID-19, you were ill for 2 or 3 months and you got behind on your rent, that's fine as long as you have the documentation in place. And the third one is you have to have delinquent rents to apply. You cannot pay rents that you already pay and you're just trying to recover money. It doesn't work that way. It has to be delinquent rent, but also you have to show that you are about to become homeless because you are in the risk of being evicted, or that you have past due rents and utilities. That's a way for them to say that you are an eligible applicant. Next slide, please. Para poder solicitar asistencia de renta, bajo este programa hay 3 preguntas que le van a hacer cuando se meten a la página de internet de este programa, y les van a hacer estas preguntas. Las 3 preguntas se tienen que contestar. Si no se contestan, si no se cercioran de que ustedes califican bajo estos 3 criterios, entonces es muy probable que no sean elegibles para el programa. El número 1, la residencia tiene que estar localizada en el estado de California. En este caso, en el condado de Valle Imperial, no importa el lugar, siempre y cuando residan en el condado de Imperial. El número 2 es poder probar que ustedes tienen una reducción de sueldos significativo, que tienen dificultades financieras para pagar sus recibos, que hubieran estado enfermos debido a COVID-19, que de alguna manera los impactó. Si tienen ustedes comprobantes de que estuve enfermo por 2 o 3 meses y me atrasé en rentas, por ejemplo, eso lo tienen que probar. Y la número 3 es demostrar que están en riesgo de perder su hogar, ya sea que los van a desalojar de su propiedad o de su lugar donde rentan, o que las condiciones de la vivienda no son seguras. Esa también es una manera de comprobar que tienen problemas financieros. Si ustedes marcan esas 3 cajitas y dicen que califican, entonces automáticamente ustedes califican para el programa. Next slide, please. Ahora bien, todos sabemos que a veces cuando hay cosas que hacer we all know that most of us and many residents in Imperial County, they have a hardship trying to get access to the internet. Especially now with COVID-19, the libraries are not as open as they used to be. The accessibility in all those places is limited, still limited for some people, and some people are afraid as well. So what the state have done is they have identified 6 nonprofit organizations so far, which are going to be the trusted messengers in Imperial County to go and assist and provide technical assistance to individuals that want to apply for the program. And so why is this important? Because sometimes there are some people like me that are challenged with computers and they might have a difficulty trying to complete an application online. So these nonprofit organizations will walk you through the process and teach you, to tell you exactly where to go, what to do, and what type of documentation, how to unload information in the system so that you can submit your application. These are some of the nonprofit organizations that have been selected so far. In your community, Mr. Ortega from the Calexico Neighborhood House was one of the first ones to submit their application to the state, and he was selected, and so his group will be available for you if you want to reach out to him for assistance. They will continue hiring other nonprofit organizations, but so far, if you go into the website, those are the 6 ones that have been selected so far in Imperial County. Next slide, please. El Estado de California ha hecho un trabajo excelente en tratar de proveer la asistencia técnica necesaria para aquellos individuos que tienen problemas en accesar la información a través del Internet. Así que lo que han hecho es contratar a 6 agencias de no lucro localizadas en el Valle Imperial que pueden ayudar a los individuos que tienen problemas en accesar el Internet o que simplemente no entienden cómo accesar, cómo bajar información del Internet, dónde leer y qué hacer. Y algunas de estas agencias, son 6 las que han seleccionado hasta ahorita, pero hay otras más que van a seleccionar. En el caso de Calexico, Calexico Neighborhood House, con el señor Ortega, está disponible. Ustedes pueden hablar a esa oficina y preguntar por asistencia y ellos los van a guiar sobre el proceso de cómo enviar su solicitud. Next slide, please. So these are the websites and when you can go and apply yourself. Is housingiskey.com, or you can also call the phone number over there. Like I said before, the website has a box on the right side. Just keep that in mind. On the right side, this is for Spanish version. It's also in different languages. And in that one, you will be able to access the application, and it will walk you through the whole process. It's very easy. It has a checklist. It's very detailed, so that you can pick. They give you have to submit one document of the following, and they give you like 10 options. You can submit each one of those 10 documents. So it's very easy to apply. Next slide. ¿Dónde solicitar la ayuda? La página de internet disponible, que también tiene la información en español y en otros lenguajes, está aquí, y también el número de teléfono. Cuando ustedes accesen a esa página, hay una cajita del lado derecho que dice que está en la versión en español o en otro idioma que ustedes deseen llenar su solicitud, o pueden llamar al número de teléfono ahí. Como les dije antes, también la agencia de Calexico Neighborhood House le puede ayudar para que les ayuden en el proceso de enviar su solicitud. Y con esto concluyo mi presentación. With this, I'm finishing my presentation. I don't know if you have any questions.
Una preguntita.
Yes.
Lo del 80% del landlord, ¿quién lo establece? ¿El Estado o el gobierno federal?
El Estado.
El Estado, ok.
So in some instances, what happened is the following. Some people, they make small payments to the rent because they don't want to lose their property. So any unpaid rent, they're going to pay up to 80% of that unpaid rent. But the landlord has to show that they have that specific amount of unpaid. And it has to sign a document in which he's waiving or she's waiving the 20%. The idea is that the account is clear, they become current. And also for the residents to apply so they can continue receiving additional assistance for the next 12 months. Wet rent up to 25%, but also with utilities.
Okay. Me preocupa, or I'm very worried about that, and I'm trying to see a way that the city can step in to make sure that landlords are more likely to accept those conditions. In a housing market that is as competitive as Calexico is, where I can bleed you dry, and there'll be a couple more lined up after I evict you, and I can charge the people that come after you more rent. ¿Cómo le podemos hacer para incentivizar a los landlords de aceptar estas condiciones?
Los grupos de no lucro como el Calexico Neighborhood House, Catholic Charities en Comité Cívico, ellos están siendo proactivos en el sentido de que van y se comunican con ellos. Los Housing Authorities también son elegibles, por ejemplo, para ir con ellos y convencerlos de que participen en el programa. Desgraciadamente no hay nada que nosotros no podemos forzar a los dueños de esas propiedades a que acepten las condiciones.
Sí.
Realmente si ellos aceptan o no el programa. Unfortunately, we're not able to force those landlords to participate in the program. It's up to them to participate in the program. But in reality, it's a great benefit for them because they will get 80% of whatever they haven't paid. They haven't received payment. But some of them might think that they might be able to get funding somewhere else, and you can't force them to participate in the program. And that's very important. I don't know what other ways are the nonprofit organizations going to be getting a list of landlords and reaching out to them and ensuring that they understand the program, and they will walk them through the program so they can apply.
Estaba hablando más específicamente that I know that the city is going to receive COVID relief money directly from the federal government. Si nosotros pudiéramos ofrecerles al landlord, decir, ok, nosotros te pagamos el otro 20% para incentivizar, ¿es
Pero
posible?
yo tendría mucho cuidado con eso hasta que ustedes entiendan exactamente cómo esos fondos van a llegar y para qué son.
Excelente.
Porque todavía no sabemos cuáles son los parámetros
Sí.
en cómo el dinero se puede utilizar. la primera porción que llegó a los condados y a las ciudades, estaban los usos eran muy específicos acerca de cómo utilizar esos fondos. Y estos fondos que van a llegar ahora van a ser de otro grupo de dinero y esos tienen sus propias reglas para usarlos. Pero yo no estoy diciendo que no se pueda, simplemente estoy diciendo de que tienen que revisar las regulaciones. Sí, no, definitivamente. El mayor interés como condado nosotros es, al condado le invitaron a ser partícipe de la Advisory Committee, del grupo que diseñan los programas y todo, y esa es la razón por la que estoy el día de hoy aquí. Voy a estar haciendo presentaciones en otras ciudades también.
Excelente, le agradecemos.
Este programa va a estar por todo el año hasta ahorita, disponible, así que pues que tomen la oportunidad de pagar sus rentas atrasadas. Thank you.
Thank you.
So far, calendar year. Yes.
Thank you, Esperanza. I know you always have something for our community. I
Yes.
appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Going back all the way to the census, also kudos to that. I know, I was telling you earlier that I used to see you everywhere. That was great. You know, we were going through the pandemic and we knew the importance of counting our population. So I'm
Thank
glad to hear also that the numbers are actually pretty good also in the census.
Yes.
Not related to this also, but we know that that will help us also get some funding and other
Yes.
things. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Pudiéramos
Thank you.
poner en la web también el link y el teléfono y el programa para que la gente accese.
Lo que Esperanza nos ha proporcionado ya lo subimos.
Ya lo subieron.
Yes.
Información adicional que vamos a hacer.
Thank you, Esperanza.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving forward to number 3, Proclamation honoring Autism Awareness Month, April 2021.
Mayor, I have speakers for this item. Would you like to hear them now or after? Would you like to hear the speakers now or after?
No.
Karina Culiacha.
Muy buenas tardes.
Karina Culiacha.
Sí, buenas tardes. Honorable miembro del Concilio de Calexico. Buenas tardes. Sí, buenas tardes. La Diputación Calexico, queremos darle las gracias por haber aceptado llevar a cabo este sensible reconocimiento a las familias de Calexico que llevan en sus hogares el tema del autismo, ¿no? Y que merecen de alguna manera la unión de nosotros en esta fecha tan importante. Muchas gracias a ustedes por hacerse presente con nosotros en este mes. Solo agradecerles por este gesto.
Paulette Ramirez. Paulette Ramirez.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Paulette Ramirez, and I would like to thank everyone for this proclamation. I'm a mother of 3 boys. 2 of them are diagnosed with autism. They are 12 and 5. Having a kid in the neurotypical sports gave me the idea that my other 2 kids were missing out on that chance because of their different diagnoses. So back in 2018, I started the first soccer team. It's
Gloria Blambila.
And we want to give more examples for them. Thank you again. Gloria Blambila. We want to give more examples for them. Thank you again. Gloria Blambila.
Okay, we'll go on with Mr. James Gonzalez.
All the City Council. My name is James Gonzalez, President of Autism Support of Imperial County. I would like to thank you for the recognition of the proclamation for Autism Awareness Month and Autism Awareness Day. Autism awareness affects 1 in every 66 people in the United States, and its recognition is greatly appreciated from the City of Calexico. I don't want to take too much of your time. You have a large agenda. So again, this proclamation is greatly appreciated. Thank you, everyone in the City Council.
You're welcome.
That is all.
That's it? Okay, moving on to the proclamation. National Autism Awareness Month, April 2021. Whereas autism is a result of neurological disorder that affects the normal functioning of the human brain and could affect anyone regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, or social economic background.
Whereas symptoms of characteristics of autism may present themselves in a variety of combinations and can result in significant lifelong impairment of an individual's ability to learn, develop healthy interactive behaviors, and understand verbal as well as nonverbal communication. And whereas the autism spectrum disorder, also known as ASD, is a reality that affects millions of families every day, and more children are being diagnosed, resulting in rates as high as 1 in 54 children nationally, with 4 times greater prevalence among boys than girls, according to the Centers of Disease Control. And
whereas, while our nation has made progress in supporting those with ASD, we are only beginning to understand the factors behind the challenges they face. And the effort to address autism continues, that doctors, therapists, and educators can help individuals with autism overcome or adjust to its challenges and provide early, accurate diagnosis, appropriate education intervention, and therapy that are vital to future growth and development. And
Whereas the United National General Assembly declared in unanimity April 2nd as World Autism Awareness Day and Article A, Res 62, 139, and whereas the City of Calexico recognized the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on children and other individuals with autism, including the description of healthy patterns of daily life that support and advance cognitive development. And
The City of Calexico proudly supports the annual observance of Autism Awareness Month and World Autism Awareness Day in the hope that it will lead to a better understanding of the autism spectrum disorder, acknowledging the work of advocates, professionals, and families who also require support because of the psychological and financial strain that comes with having a child with autism, and all who work to build a brighter tomorrow alongside those with autism. And
Now therefore be it resolved that I, Rosie Arola Fernandez, Mayor of the City of Calexico, do hereby proclaim April 2021 as National Autism Awareness Month and encourage all employees and residents to observe this day with the intent to become better educated on autism and create a better community for people with autism. And witness, whereas I hereunto affix my signature and official seal of the City of Calexico on the 7th day of April, 2021.
Madam Mayor, Ms. Brambila.
Yes, ma'am, she may speak.
Que sepa que estamos aquí para apoyarla. Estamos todos unidos en este mismo labor para nuestros niños. Muchas gracias por ser líder en Calexico y apoyarnos trayendo tanta concienciación. A todas las demás organizaciones que están aquí reunidas, así debe de ser. Deberíamos de trabajar todo el tiempo juntos para el porvenir de nuestros hijos. Una mamá muy fenomenal, Paulette Molina, viaja desde Calexico hasta Calipatria, incansablemente para el bien y el porvenir, no nada más de los niños de Calexico, sino de todo el Valle Imperial. Y todos la adoramos, la respetamos, la amamos. Gracias por hacer una diferencia en nuestras vidas, Paulette Ramírez. Participas en cada organización que sea disponible para todos tus hijos y te comendamos por esa labor que haces voluntariamente. Autism Support, Best Step Forward, todas las demás organizaciones, hay que seguir trabajando juntos para que el mundo poco a poco vaya cambiando para nuestros hijos. Ciudad de Calexico, de todo corazón les agradecemos que se unan a este esfuerzo de hacer una diferencia positiva para un cambio mejor. Muchas gracias, que pasen buenas noches.
Thank you, muchas gracias. Okay, moving on to item 4.
Buenas noches.
Thank you, muchas gracias. Okay, moving on to.
Sorry about that.
Okay, National Library Week, Proclamation, April 4th to 10th, 2021. Proclamation, National Library Week. Whereas libraries of all types are at the heart of their cities, towns, schools, and campuses serving their communities, and
Whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that foster a sense of belonging and community. And whereas today's libraries and their services extend far beyond the four walls of a building and everyone is welcome to use their resources. And whereas for people lacking broadband at home, libraries provide access to computers and Wi-Fi. And
Whereas libraries strive to develop and maintain programs and collections that are as diverse as the populations that they serve and ensure equity of access for all. And whereas libraries offer opportunities for everyone to explore new worlds and become their best selves through access to technology, multimedia content, and educational program. And whereas in times of crises, libraries, librarians, and library workers play an invaluable role in supporting their communities, both in person and virtually. And
Whereas to adapt to our changing world, libraries are spending their resources and continuing to meet the needs of the payers. And whereas libraries, cornerstone of democracy, pair, promoting the free exchange of information and ideas for all. And
Whereas libraries have long served as trusted and treasured institutions for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. And whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. And
now therefore be it resolved that I, Rosie Arreola Fernandez, Mayor of the City of Calexico, do proclaim National Library Week, April 4th to 10th, 2021. During this week, I encourage all residents to visit their library online to access resources and services because of you. Libraries transform lives and communities. In witness, whereas I hereunto affix my signature and official seal of the City of Calexico on this 7th day of April 2021.
Madam Mayor, we have with us today Lisette Legaspi. She serves as our library manager, and I would like to call her up so she can have a few words for us today.
Thank you, and good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council, members of the community. I just want to remind you that even though we're celebrating this week, obviously National Library Week, even though the library's doors are closed, our services continue to be open, and we're a very active library that try to provide as many services as possible to the community. Now virtually, we continue to check our books, so people can continue to call us if they want to, some information, if they want to check out our materials. We're there. We're here for them. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for the great yard
Thank
you're
you.
doing. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Announcements.
These proceedings may be viewed on the City of Calexico website at www.calexico.ca.gov the Friday following the City Council meeting. Community office hours with Mayor Arreola Fernandez will be held on the fourth Tuesday of the month from 2 to 4 p.m. Please contact the City Clerk's office at 760-768-2102 for an appointment.
Public comments and public appearances or public comments.
This is the time for the public to address the City Council on any comment not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. During the current state of emergency, public comments will be received in the following ways. You may submit your comments via email by 2 p.m. on Wednesday, April 7th, to ggarcia@calexico.ca.gov or via fax at 760-768-2103. These comments will be read aloud during the meeting and entered into the record. You may make a public comment live via Zoom by submitting a request via Zoom chat. Persons may submit their name and section of the agenda they want to speak of, such as public comments, or state the number of the agenda. Any comments received during or after the meeting will be distributed to the council and retained for the official record. The City Council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not included on the printed agenda. I have one comment, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Ureña, since you're so for open borders, why don't you start by knocking down the fence in your house? And also, why don't you take the encampment to your front yard? Stop using city property. Very concerned citizen of Calexico, Lourdes Lopez.
Is that all we have? Okay, moving on to city manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, members of the community. I have 4 items that I'm going to touch on. Some of them have to do from recommendations that I received from the council for me to come back and report on. There is one item that was brought up at the most recent city council meeting that relates to the Chamber of Commerce here in Calexico. So as it pertains to the city, there is some information, some historical information that I was able to gather, and I'll be happy to share with you. Before I get into that, I do want to share with you that I've had several meetings as it pertains to the Chamber of Commerce. The reason that I've been involved in those meetings is because we've been asked as a city to facilitate and host these meetings here by myself, along with current members that sit on the board of the Calexico Chamber of Commerce, so they can have a discussion as it pertains to the future of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm happy to share that they've also met with other entities to have a discussion to better serve the businesses through the Chamber of Commerce. At this moment right now, there has been communication that we received from a board member of the Chamber of Commerce sharing the work they're doing to once again bring back the Chamber to an operational state. So they're working on that. That is something that we know. I've also had the opportunity to meet with other members of the community that are spearheading other efforts to serve the role of other Chamber of Commerces in the city, specifically one that is led by a gentleman, a local businessman by the name of Jesse Gallardo, which I had a meeting with them last week. Our police chief, per my request, was there with me as well to address the items that Mr. Gallardo had in play. One of the things that I share with everybody, and that is that we as a city, we're open for all these efforts that are going out there to improve the promotion of our businesses, that is something that we obviously see with good eyes. We as a city want to be here to help, to facilitate, and just be of aid as it's needed. So with that, I did want to point that out, that as it pertains to us as a city, we've been approached, we've been open, we've been communicating with them. At times, we've been able to share what resources are available, which ones are not. Again, we just want to be a conduit so we have attention to our local businesses in Calexico. With that said, and per the request that I received, I am going to share some facts with you. From fiscal year 2005-2006 to fiscal year 2010-2011, the city of Calexico, the redevelopment agency of the city of Calexico, and the Chamber of Commerce of Calexico entered into 6 agreements during that span of time. Those agreements that were approved at that time during those years in total amounted to $337,000. I want to make the distinction that at that time we cannot forget that the redevelopment agency was still in effect, not only here but obviously throughout the state of California. When RDA was dissolved through AB 26, RDA's, their dissolution became effective February 1st, 2012. So what I do want to share with you is that aside from the agreements that I shared with you, that the City Council and or the successor agency approved, in total, from July 1st, 2005, all the way through December 9, 2019, the City of Calexico has awarded the total sum of $850,755.13. So in essence, this has come in the form of membership payments, sponsorship of events that the chamber has had, monthly allocations that was mostly seen during those 6 agreements prior to the expiration of RDA, and other monies that the city at the time secured, for example, asset forfeiture monies that at the time the governing body decided to provide the chamber some support. So once again, for that period of time that I alluded to, $850,755.13 were allocated. That's something that was requested. So on that note, I do want to point out that currently right now, along those same lines, the city of Calexico, from January 2020 to March 29, 2021, we lost a total of 153 businesses. And we see this in the form of our business licenses. 109 of those are businesses within the city of Calexico, and 44 of them are from out of town. And you may ask yourself, well, what do you mean out of town? Well, we do have some businesses that have a physical address outside of Calexico, but do conduct business in Calexico. So that's where that comes from. At this point right now, the city of Calexico has 1,382 active business licenses. And that's as of today, April 7th.
Well, excuse me, what was that number again?
Absolutely, Mayor. 1,382 active business licenses. Another request, Madam Mayor, members of the council, that I received was to provide an update on the federal relief package for which there is a preliminary allocation to the city of Calexico. So basically what I can share with you is that the last piece of information that I have here that has been channeled through the California League of Cities, but also through the membership that we have with the International City and County Managers Association, ICMA. They provided the latest information that does not vary much from what we've learned in the past month. What we do know is that obviously the relief package in its entirety, which not only includes the government support, but also the citizen support and other types of monies that are going to be injected back into the economy, was approved March 11th. At this point right now, and I can share with you that I went through my network to try and get the latest information in terms as to when we could get a hard date as to when the monies are going to come down. To this date is unknown. But obviously, as soon as more of that information comes about, we'll be sharing it. What I can share with you is that some of the things that we've began to see after the relief package bill was approved March 11th is that we have a better understanding as to what are going to be allowed expenses and what are going to be non-allowed expenses. So at least on our end, as an administration, I can begin to work with my finance department and the other departments as well, so we all understand what will be allowed and what is not going to be allowed. But again, these are, like Ms. Colio Warren mentioned in her presentation, these are not final instructions as to how the monies can be used. More information as it comes. I have some good news. And for some of us that are looking to improve and revamp our entitlement process for projects, call it commercial, industrial, residential, the California Housing and Community Development Department yesterday issued some updated guidelines to the ministerial approval process. What does that mean? What that means is the fact that we now have been given, throughout the state of California, updated guidelines as to what ministerial steps we can take as an administrative body to entitle projects. This is big because us, which right now we are working diligently to meet our regional housing needs assessment numbers, I mean, it gives us a better opportunity to fast-track projects. And this is aside from what I've been sharing with you that we're going to be instilling through some of the items that this body has approved, more efficient processes as it pertains to what we do in planning, what we do in building. So this is the state of California giving us municipalities another little push so we can have a little bit more leeway in terms of how we determine that we approve projects. We've also were informed, and this was through SB 35. I also want to bring up that another thing that was released yesterday were also guidelines on the Surplus Land Act. We in Calexico have been on top of the Surplus Land Act because, as we know, we've been in discussion about city properties and how we go about putting them on the market, either for a lease or either as a sell opportunity of the land. So again, for us, it's to our benefit that we've been on this possibly for the past 2 years now, very vested. Now we have additional information that we can use because we're still continuing along that process, as you folks know. So that's good for us to be on top of that so we can implement what the state is asking for and we don't waste either the third party that we're working with or even us in terms of the timing, because timing is money and we want to make sure that we move projects as fast as we can. The last thing that I do want to share is that, as you know, yesterday we were informed that effective today, we are now in the orange tier. And I think a lot of people in our community are emphatic about wanting to know when city operations will resume in terms of having a closer interaction with our community members. Today, Imperial County Public Health Director Janet Angulo informed that on April 15th, they're going to be providing us specific guidelines as to how we go about this. April 15th is right around the corner. It's next week. On that note, I want to transition and call up our fire chief so he can provide additional information as it pertains to COVID-19 in Imperial County, in Calexico, and share a little more on what I just started talking about.
All right, good evening, Honorable City Council, to our staff, and to, most importantly, our citizens of Calexico that are viewing via our Zoom or through our social media platform. This will be your brief COVID-19 update here. We're going to start with the most recent numbers for the city of Calexico. We have a total cases of 7,010. We have active cases of 51. Total recovery rate is 6,732 with 227 deaths. 51 cases we haven't had since the month of April. Last year when this thing first started, we've always been in the triple and unfortunately in the 4-digit number. So to see 51 is good for me. Like the city manager mentioned, the state of California officials announced that California has now successfully administered 4 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines to most of the communities throughout the state of California. So by reaching this milestone, it allows for a broader reopening of our businesses, and it paves the way for an easier transition into the California blueprint on a safer economy, right? So based on this update guidance, the Imperial County, like Miguel mentioned, that we have now moved over to the moderate, or what's considered the orange level, and this went into effect today, April 7th. So moving to the orange tier now allows most of our businesses in Calexico to open up with 50% capacity. For the most part, everybody affected will see that. This will allow for the public indoor seated live events, such as this meeting that we're holding today. So we're looking to receive further guidance from both the state and the county by April 15th. And like the city manager mentioned, this will be next Wednesday, and hoping for the changes for future council meetings where we can actually have some people in our facility, and that's based on occupancy load and max. Talking about the vaccines, in total, over 33% of California residents have received at least one of the COVID-19 doses, or vaccines, I'm sorry. Imperial County has received more than 89,000 COVID vaccines, and that is a number that we didn't seem like we were going to get that many in the very beginning. But we did, and for that we're thankful. So about 71,000 of those doses have been administered to the people in the Imperial County. So who's getting vaccinated now is the adults age 50 and older, the essential workers in the food and agricultural emergency services, and education and childcare. People that are 16 and older who have developmental disabilities or certain medical conditions that put them at risk of serious illness from COVID-19. Residents and the staff of nursing homes and assisted living facilities, healthcare workers. And remember, if you were part of a category that was previously allowed to get the vaccine, and for whatever reason you didn't choose to get it, you're still allowed and you can still get into line for the vaccines. So what will be coming up next for the group that we should be seeing here shortly should be available on April 15th as well. That's going to be the ages of 16 and up. So if you're at the age of 16 and up on April 15th, hopefully you should be able to get your vaccine. That's the goal. The testing and the vaccination areas remain the same throughout the city. Farmacia del Pueblo, that's the 801 Birch, our city. Dr. Vo's office, 222 East Cole Road. Calexico Wellness Center, 420 Heffernan. The Imperial Clínicas de Salud at 423 2nd Street. Clínicas del Pueblo, 223 West Cole Road. And Walmart Pharmacy, 2540. The good thing about these vaccination sites, I've had the privilege to help out with these vaccines, and it's kind of like a joyful moment for our citizens. And it seems like it's just one big family gathering. Everybody knows everybody, everybody's in a happy mood. They show up nervous, but at the end they leave happy. And I think that's just because of our bond that we have here in Calexico. It's more of a family. And I like those. I like to see that. So let's keep moving in the right direction. Keep your mask, social distancing, wash your hands, and I think we can do this together. And that's it.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, moving on to City Council comments, reports of meetings attended, and I'm going to start from my left, going right. Mrs. Romo?
Thank you, Madam. I visited Madam, the Calexico Airport and meet with Mr. Arguelles and Ms. Valvir. And I found many needs and could tell you that we are not working properly at the airport. For this reason, I request that the administration present us with a detailed report on the operation of the airport, please. Its needs and its future. And then, also today I was present at the eviction of homeless file workers. I am very sorry for the unfair action taken by this council. And then that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Garcia?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to share that I attended via Zoom the League of Cities meeting. It is always a very dynamic meeting, and you get to hear a lot of updates, from different agencies, and we did get an update from ICTC in regards to transportation, projects, and other things that are working on. And then I think it's also a good opportunity to network with our fellow council members, even though I haven't had a chance to, from other cities, even though I haven't had a chance to do that in person as it usually takes place. But it's still a very good opportunity to, again, network and share some of the projects, some of the best practices. And most definitely, we have a presence, and I encourage, all of you to attend. I think it does help, to be there. And to, something that I have always said, and I have shared with many colleagues from throughout the council, different councils, cities, council members from different cities, and also county officials, that we need to work together, that we need to collaborate, that we need to strategize together and pull our resources. I'm glad to hear that, for example, Ms. Colio from the county was here today to inform of what they're working on or what they have as far as resources. So I think that's the collaboration that continues or needs to continue. And that, those type of meetings, League of Cities and other meetings, I think those are the opportunities to build those relationships. Then also I met with a few residents, actually phone calls, and just expressing their needs and concerns. And when those happens, I usually reach out to the city manager, if there is a need to be addressed. And they have responded. So thank you for that. Thank you to all the city employees that respond in a timely manner. I know we do a lot with that, and I say this all the time, but I know that is true, and you know that also, that they do a lot and they do a heck of a good job, with the few resources that we have, but we'll make it work. So in Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, I just wanted to go back to the city manager's report. I didn't get a chance to ask a question. So Miguel, if you can if you can go back to the businesses that have closed, the number of businesses, identifying those businesses. One of the things that I want to do for all those businesses, and especially the people that have been affected by those business closures, hopefully we can identify at least the businesses, and if you can share those with us, or at least with me, because there might be some assistance that we can provide. And we just had the presentation today on the rental assistance and utilities assistance also. And as we continue to open up, there are other services also throughout the county and throughout other agencies that might be also along the lines of assisting with, getting back into employment, which that's going to be a need, getting through or navigating the UI or unemployment benefits application. Also, all those services that they're going to need to get back on their feet. So if you can provide that information, so I can in turn, share that information with other agencies, so we can make sure that we get these people some help, that we assist them through this transition, getting back into employment, getting a new skill set, if that's something that they need to get, so we can retrain, retool our workforce. So if you can do that, I would really appreciate it.
Absolutely, we can definitely do that. Doesn't need to wait until the next meeting. We can definitely provide that information. I'll work with staff and we'll share it. I'll share it with the council.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's
Okay.
my report, thank you.
Pro Tem, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to piggyback on two items that Mr. Garcia mentioned. The first one's a short one, is that we have, I believe you said 1,300 businesses total that contribute to business license? Approximately.
1,000,
Right. Okay, so going back to what Mr. Garcia was saying, I concur with what he was saying, is that although we did have some businesses that closed, especially the one we all know, Mr. Louis Wong. So I don't know if it's still time to save his business, I think, but certainly because we do have some eventually funds come forward, maybe because they do contribute once with the business license. And then also to piggyback on it, and the other item that he mentioned with the California League of Cities, and I'm happy to announce that I got elected as vice president for California Cities League of Cities Imperial County Division. What does that mean? It means that we finally Calexico has a voice at the table.
Yes.
And so I will be, looking forward to work with all the California cities here in California, with the governor's office, and we're also going to be represented at Sacramento and Washington D.C. So I'm really looking forward to those challenges and issues we need to address here at the local level, because we are at the bottom of the funnel, and everything that's been going on since COVID-19. I think we now we have voice at the table. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you. The other thing, on Thursday, April the 1st, I also attended the CBP monthly meeting, and some of the items that we discussed, obviously the border traffic issue along the border, from going to Mexico and coming back from Mexico. We also discussed the Sentry, how long does it take till people actually apply, and what by the time they get the Sentry. Still hasn't changed, 50 something weeks by the time people get the Sentry pass. I also attended the Southern Border Committee, which was held here at the City Chambers. We elected Mr. Jesus Escobar, Supervisor, as Chair, and then we also elected Mr. Figueroa as Vice Chair. Looking forward to working with that team. On Tuesday, April the 6th, also attended the Mexican Consulate meeting. As per their request, they asked us to open our doors for our house and invite them down here, and so we had a very meaningful discussion. Mr. Figueroa was here, as well as Mayor Rosie Arela Fernandez was also there. Some of the items discussed was obviously COVID-19, vaccinations, opening up the border and so forth, and also the expansion of the Mexican consulate there at where they're currently situated, which the concern was that they've grown, so that was talked. Last but not least, I want to say that and we do have the recreation manager, Norma Gerardo, with us in our audience. I'd like to say that there is, in the recreation department, there is a special, actually there's a sketching with shoe, which Coach Jaime will be teaching you step by step on how to draw Lego Marvel characters via Zoom on April the 6th to the 8th at 1:30 p.m. And so I'd like to thank Norma Gerardo for putting that together. Thank you. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ureña?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to notify the council, based on the ordinance that we have for the 5-minute limit on city council comments, that I am a person with a disability. I am typically entitled to 1.5 time according to the ADA. That's something that we can consult with the lawyer, but I'm just giving this notification prior to my comment. This morning, I witnessed a pretty expensive crime against humanity on the part of the city of Calexico, where pretty much just about all of our city employees, the whole police department, fire department, parks, cities and streets, evicted 8 people to the heat of the streets as the temperatures were warming up. There's a quote from the Calexico Chronicle from the police chief, Gerardo, talking about the legality of what just occurred, the demolition of a survival camp for homeless farm workers. Gerardo, it says here, Gerardo conceded that there was some confusion around the boundaries of the Roosevelt Reservation and an easement the city awarded to the federal government in 1948. He says city officials had consulted council, who advised them that the camp's removal was legal. He says, "It's very confusing, but they gave us the go-ahead." It's very misleading. This morning I called City Manager Figueroa because, per an email from City Attorney Campos, the delimitations were questionable. They were unclear based on the fact that the map, the Roosevelt Reservation map, is so old, 1948, that they might not exactly match up. The go-ahead to demolish this camp and evict 8 people out to the street was made by 3 council members, Arriola, Garcia, and Moreno. And it was done in the most inhumane way possible. Yes, absolutely. Moreno's friends spread the love were there. They helped house 2 out of the 10 people that were living in that encampment, and the rest of the 8 of them are now roaming the streets of Calexico because we threw them out. We did this in the most inhumane way possible. We destroyed all of their property. 1. We didn't even consider a brief time extension to even make clear the delimitations of our jurisdiction, because 3 council members were in a haste to make sure that some people ended up on the street. It's sad. Moreno said in a different Calexico Chronicle article, "You don't hear a lot from us because we're professionals. But truly, it's because we're not doing anything." I mean, you look at these council agendas and you see the lack of innovation. You see the fact that the months go by and we have no innovative discussions on the big issues that are facing not just this country, but are being reflected in the city of Calexico, and much less any proposals. We're already close to 6 months of this new council, and we still haven't figured out quite much of anything, when we, in fact, should be in crisis mode. We are in crisis mode, many crises. All of COVID, number 1. We have a meth epidemic in this county. We have a suicide epidemic in this county. We have an opioid epidemic in this county. We have an economic recession with the return of insane oil prices. We have a housing crisis. We have a climate crisis. We have a drought on top of a dying river and a diminishing water supply. And on top of that, we have historic inequality. We are receiving these $7.5 million in COVID relief, and I see cities like Salinas, cities like San Diego, cities like El Centro already making professional plans that are guided in the principles of social justice, and we don't even know, the slightest idea of what we need. We're not even bringing these discussions to the people. Going back to the camp, we can't rely exclusively on the nonprofit sector to solve these structural problems. I've worked there. They're great partners, but these problems are structural. They are problems that are structural and interlaced across all of the functions of government across all levels. Going to the border wall situation, the border wall sale. It's quoted in the Calexico Chronicle again by Mayor Pro Tem Moreno, saying, paraphrasing, that for Arriola, Garcia, and Moreno, this was a business decision. It was not personal, and it was not political. Firstly, it was a terrible business decision, because who sells 2.5 acres of land to the federal government, one of the richest agencies in probably the world, without any type of negotiation? We couldn't even have said, well, give us 30,000, maybe bump it up to the cost of a used car or something like that. We negotiate similar land things in closed session, and I can't reveal those details. But that tenacity was not here. It was, you want the land, here you go, federal government, here you go, Trump. Go ahead and build your border wall, even though none of my community wants it. It is political. We are politicians. We are here in representation of a people, the people of Calexico, all of them, the most vulnerable to the most fortunate. At least that's the way I see it. The people of Calexico made it clear what they wanted you to do. They wrote that letter to you, Mr. Garcia, the SDSU students that put you where you are. And you threw it away and said, I do what I want. It is political. Somos la ciudad de Calesia, ciudad con perspectivas importantes, únicas, dignas de ser reflejadas en la política regional, estatal y federal. No nos limitemos a pipas. El trabajo del Consejo va mucho más allá de eso. Sino, el trabajo del Consejo lo decidimos nosotros en nuestra autodeterminación. Somos un gobierno democrático, no una franquicia, no una empresa. Legislamos por el bien común. No vendemos tortas, no vendemos agua. Las vidas de muchos están en nuestras manos, y cuando nosotros hacemos la decisión política de poner sangre de poblanos como usted, señor García, como su pueblo, que está tratando de venir aquí en estos momentos, no sé si los ha notado o se ha comunicado con ellos. Gentes mías, gentes de Moreno, que un día un historiador me dijo, ¿cómo es que alguien con el apellido Moreno puede ser tan racista? Y apoyar pólizas tan racistas como el muro de Trump. Es político. Dejémonos de pequeñeces, sino tenemos tanta potencialidad de ser modelo para la región y el estado que hemos salido en prensa de San Diego recientemente por todas las razones incorrectas. ¿Por qué? Porque se burlan de nosotros, dicen, mira, la ciudad de Calexico ni se sabe su identidad, se está vendiendo al señor Trump, no cuida de sus farm workers, no les pone baños, y para terminarla, cuando ponen sus carpitas porque ya no tienen nada, porque los dejaron sin nada, hasta eso le quitan, sin delimitar su jurisdicción. Podemos hacer mejor que esto, y los invito a trabajar con esta perspectiva un poco más amplia de sus roles y no limitarse a cosas un poquito empresariales. Muchas gracias.
Okay. I'm going to start off with my monthly meeting with ICTC, transportation, and SAG. Updates on streets that are being fixed. And it's good to know they're going to be winding from Edie to Rockwood, going east. Mr. Moreno was also attended that via Zoom with us. And the League of Cities with the regional forum. And again, congratulations, Mr. Moreno, for your participation. We also met with County Representative Supervisor Escobar, Ritis, and Mrs. Baxter, and they did update us on the grants that are being available to Calexico, especially with the new river. You know, they told us how important it is for us to work together and move forward with all these projects. I also went on Zoom with Mr. Eduardo Garcia, Assemblyman, and the same thing, he gave us updates on the funds that are going to be coming to Calexico. Also participated on the strategic planning assessment that was done, and I guess we all participated in that. I'm not too sure if the other councilmen attended it or not, but I did. And of course, you know, we have weekly updates with the county health department regarding COVID-19. We have the monthly meetings with CVP, and they give us updates on the status of the border crossing. And up to today, there's no update on the Eastport, when they're going to extend their hours, even though we have been asking them how important it is for them to extend their hours. We met with the Mexican consul, which they have very much concerns about the commercial trucks that are being held up in the East Port coming across. And also, they also confirmed that they did open 3 lines going south, which is, I think, it's very good news for us. Also met with Imperial Regional Detention Facility. They have quarter meetings and they give us updates on their functions. Now, Mr. Ureña, you seem to always like to say things about myself and my colleagues. Have you ever stopped to think on what you're saying and how well, then, I'm going to tell you something. I think you need to grow up. And I think your comments are not very much appreciated. And to start off, this encampment, we had nothing to do with it. It was the government's doing, okay? And we followed the rule. Our police chief followed it, and we followed everything that was supposed to have been followed. The people that were there were not all farm workers, and you know it. The neighbors were not happy with them being around. They broke into people's homes. You were getting electricity from the neighbors. You were cooking fried chicken in the tents. What safety is that? Now, you have your way of seeing things, and that's why we as council need to look out for the citizens of Calexico, everyone in general. You have your group, we have our group. I'm going to tell you something. Us 3 right here, we are looking for the citizens, and we're looking for the employees as well, okay? I do not appreciate you blaming me for what goes on out there. So, okay? So one of these days, the tables are going to turn, Mr. Ureña. Moving forward, that's all I could say. And you, Mrs. Romo, too, your comments to the press is very unacceptable. I do not ever say anything negative about you two until right now. This has to stop. We're not insulting neither of you the way you insult us. Now, you're supposed to be here to work together, not to be against each other.
Work together.
Well, you sure it's not. So moving forward, that's all I could say. Now to consent agenda. Do we have approval for the consent agenda, 5, 6, 7, and 8?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Councilmember Garcia?
Aye.
Councilmember Romo?
Aye.
Councilmember Ureña?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno?
Aye.
Mayor Ariola Fernandez?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Discussion and potential action items. 9, authorize the city manager to sign the contract with Motorola Solutions Industry for the previously approved purchase of the radio equipment.
Motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Second, okay.
Okay?
Councilmember Garcia?
Aye.
Councilmember Romo?
Aye.
Councilmember Ureña?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno?
Aye.
Mayor Ariola Fernandez?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Moving on to item 10, adopt resolution number 2021 of the City Council of the City of Calexico authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute a CRGP grant offer agreement and/or any document pertaining to grant number 3-06-0034-0200-021 with the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, for the Calexico International Airport.
Make a motion to approve item 10.
Second?
Councilmember Garcia?
Aye.
Councilmember Romo?
Aye.
Councilmember Ureña?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno?
Aye.
Mayor Ariola Fernandez?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Provide direction to the city manager to move forward with option number 1, option number 2, or option number 3 for the purchase of restrooms for Adrian C. Cordova Memorial Park. Now, could we have some backup on that?
Absolutely, Madam Mayor. Members of the council, members of the community, going back to February 17th, we, as staff, received direction to further look into this item and present to you what we have today, which are options. The options that you have here in front of you And I'll do just a brief recollection. This pertains to a restroom project for Adrian C. Cordova. As we know, this has been a project that has been phased out as monies have become available. At this point right now, what we have here in front of you is that using a cooperative agreement as it pertains to how we procure these types of projects, we have the advantage within our procurement policy that we can use these type of agreements so we can fast track some of the vendors that we can pick for these types of projects. So in a nutshell, what you have here is we have three options. We have option number one, which basically is a metal container that's going to be limited as it pertains to the number of restroom toilets and urinals compared to the other two options. That roams between the range of $275,000 and $300,000. We have option number two, which is basically a restroom that will be constructed there. It is if the same material as option number three, but it's going to be smaller in size. It's going to have less urinals and less toilets than option number three. Option number three is pretty much what we discussed on February 17th. It's a larger scale bathroom that's designed to meet the needs of the size of the recreational activities that we're going to have at Adrian C. Adrian C. Cordova Park. One of the things that was made emphasis on, that we went back and that we looked into, was the warranty of the restroom. As you can see per the staff report, like other restrooms of similar size, when they get built, they have an life expectancy of 50 plus years. And then again, one of the things that this council will have the authority to do is determine how it is that we make that restroom available for our community. At this point right now, that's a conversation that we can definitely have as we move forward with the project. At this point right now, these are the three options that we have. I appreciate your patience because it's taken a couple of city council meetings for us to bring this back, but we just wanted to make sure that we had something to present to you as it was requested.
Madam Mayor, and that was something that I had
Yes, you did, Mr. Garcia.
requested for staff to bring some options and additional information. And part of the additional information, I know this is quite of an expense, for two restrooms, kind of like just put it in that context. But also, something that was added, is adding the warranty, and I think that adds to the value. But also, what I want is, and I'm pretty sure all of this is in writing, all of this is vetted, all of this is going to be actually, memorialized, so we can go back and again use these facilities the way that they're meant to be used, meaning that they need to be open, meaning that they need to be accessible, because it is of no use to build a facility and have it closed. Like we have seen, at some parks, they're closed and not accessible. So I know that's probably a different conversation that we need to have, or maybe at the staff level, but I want to make sure that we do get that in writing, that we make sure that, again, we're vetting. It's not that I'm doubting, but I just want to make sure that all of this is vetted. I want to make sure that, it's competitive, it's durable, and that also, mentioning, that the procurement process that was followed, I want this type of option, at least for myself, where I can choose, where I can compare. And then I know that for some of these type of purchases, there is probably a limited local market. But, and I'm pretty sure that you also do that when you procure, to buy, services, that we go to the local market, that we try to hopefully go to the local businesses so we can create the employment. So all of those things. And I say this because, again, it's a good expenditure. It's a sizable amount. And hopefully, if we can keep as much as local possible, I would really appreciate that.
Absolutely, sir.
So with that, I'll move to approve option number 3.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Good.
Romo, second.
Yes, second.
Councilmember Garcia,
Aye.
Councilmember Romo,
Aye.
Councilmember Urania,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno,
Aye.
Mayor Arturo Fernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, moving to item number 12, authorize city manager to sign agreement of professional services with Panorama Environmental Industry for technical and regulatory assistance for the New River Improvement Project, Calexico Reach.
Madam Mayor, I'll briefly share with the council and with our community that this is another milestone that we're hitting in terms of getting closer to actually beginning construction of the 3 elements of the Calexico Reach that are part of a strategic plan adopted by the state of California. What I do want to share with you is that through the leadership of our project manager that we have designated to assist on this project, we are making strides. And one of the biggest things that we had to address was making sure that we secured the regulatory permits through the 2 state agencies and the 1 agency at the federal government. I am happy to share that we have been doing a lot of work with these agencies, a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of phone calls to make sure that we understand what they're looking for so they can issue the reg permit. So with that said, we went through a bidding process in which we RFQ'd the technical work that is required to comply with the state and be able to secure the regulatory permits. With that said, Mr. Angel and Ms. Falomir, our Public Works Administrative Manager, reviewed such proposals of which we were for, and it was determined that we go with the recommendation that was read by Madam Mayor Rosie Fernandez, which is Panorama Environmental Inc. So at this point, what this is going to do, if approved, we will begin immediately to work on securing the rec permits. The rec permits will allow us to be able to be in a position where we can procure out the construction of the actual project for the 3 elements here in south of the 2nd Street Bridge. If you have any questions, any comments, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you.
Motion to
Any
approve?
questions?
Oh, sorry.
I have a motion to approve number 12
I'll
for authorize city manager to sign the agreement.
Sure. I'll second.
Councilmember Garcia, Councilmember Romo,
Aye.
Councilmember Urania,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno,
Aye.
Mayor Arturo Fernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes
Okay,
unanimously.
moving on to item 13, authorize for city manager to purchase 1 Caterpillar 305.5E2 mini hydraulic excavator for the water distribution and water waste collection division in the amount of $71,795.73 from Empire Machinery under Obna Partners Public Sector Corporation Purchase Agreement.
Madam Mayor, this is an item that's above the purchasing authority of the city manager. That's why we bring it to council. But I do want to point out that this is part of the capital improvement program that this council approved. So with that said, this is a unique tool that, as it's mentioned in the report, and it's the subject line that you read, this is needed by our water distribution and sewer collection system crews. This is a unique element that they need so they can do some of the repairs to the broken water lines and some of the maintenance that we're now embarking on for the water lines in the city of Calexico. One of the things that I do want to share is that just given the specific use that this machine has, this is something that we cannot lease, that we actually need to purchase, because the life expectancy is going to be something that we're going to have for a while here in our city as an asset for the Public Works Department to use. So with that said, that's why we're coming to you seeking approval so we can continue to be congruent with our capital improvement program.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve this item?
Motion to approve?
Do I have a second?
Councilmember Romo,
Aye.
Councilmember Garcia,
Aye.
Councilmember Udina,
Aye.
Mayor Potem Moreno,
Aye.
Mayor Arroyo Fernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, moving to item 14, authorize city manager to sign change order number 1 with Hazard Construction Company in the amount of $4,091 for the street improvement project, asphalt, rubber, composite layer overlay on designated streets, project number 2020 through 500. And I know we don't like change orders, but Mr.
No, absolutely, and per the dollar amount that we have here in question today, which is $4,091, and it's not a high number, is because of 3 reasons. We awarded the contract so we could do the 2020 street improvement program as we've been doing in recent years. As part of the things that sometimes we cannot see with plain sight until the technical experts go in and take a closer look, begin to look underground, there are certain things that popped up. And none of them are negative. Actually, one of them turned out to be a savings to the city, because as a result of that analysis that was done, there was not a need to replace 3 manholes, which initially we thought we were going to replace. So we were able to just repair them, so that created a savings of $60,000. On that end, if we can recall, in recent years, De Las Flores Street over by Cloquy Road and between Cloquy and Edie Avenue, right in the periphery of Willie Moreno Junior High, there's De Las Flores Street. One of the things that was found was that there was a need to relocate a catch basin so water could flow on that street, and we would avoid having any type of still water, either through irrigation or when we have rainfall. The second thing that was found, that was when that street was grinded, there was some native, what's called native soil that was under the street that needed to be digged out. As a result of that, the life expectancy of that street will be what it's meant to be, and it's not going to be a brand new street that in a couple of years you or anybody can see a 3-5 inch crack on it. So as a result of those changes that had to get done, we have this balance that we need to address of $4,091. So with that said, I wanted to be very detailed in terms of analyzing and depicting the elements behind this change order, just because I think all of us agree that this is something that sometimes it's inevitable, sometimes we can prevent. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions?
I have a question, only one. It also happens when there is money left over, for example.
So
This is for $4,000 more, no problem, but
that's a great question, Councilwoman Romo. So actually what we need to do is we actually have a pool of money designated for these types of projects. In this case, we do have the money to make up that's being requested here. So within what's budgeted, we can actually absorb the difference of $4,091. In this case, that's what we need to do. If we found a scenario in which some money is left over after the project is complete, that money goes into that pool of money of what it's intended for, because next year we're going to continue to have a street overlay project in other streets in the city. So in other words, the money stays there, but it gets used for what it's intended for.
thank you.
Yes.
Question, Miguel. One of the things, and again, we have a list, and this was actually from the previous year, but one of the things that I get asked by the citizens, and I want you to share that with the community, right? Because, quite often, we get asked, so I get asked, how do I go about having my street, work done? Sure. How can we go about, putting this on you guys' radar so you can work on this? What's the process for that? How we prioritize which streets get work done. So if you don't mind just sharing,
Absolutely. So there are 2 things that happen here. We already have an inventory of streets that we're gonna have to include in next year's street improvement program. How do we come about that? We do an analysis of the quality of the pavement on the street. We compare that to the last time the street was paved. So based on that, we create a priority list of which one is next. That's what we as staff do. However, if we get calls from residents, what we do is that we put those streets also in a list in which we also have staff do the same practice. We go there, we determine the need. If there is a need to be moved up in terms of the priority list, that can happen. I can share with you that within the past week, Ms. Falomir and I have received about 5 inquiries, just that I can remember in the past week, 5 inquiries about streets that certain constituents are telling us, please consider this for the next year. So we factor in what staff tells us as to what we need to pave, and also what the community tells us. And based on that, we go as much as what we can do in terms of awarding the annual contract. And if we don't get to one of those streets on that list, it will be on the next year's.
Yeah, and just because also, I understand, that there's an inventory of streets, and that the last time that they were worked on, but also there's also some streets that get more traffic,
Yes.
and they get more use and abuse, wear and tear. So I think some of those strategies kind of like go out of the window. But what I want to make sure is that maybe if we can create within our website, and this is part of what I've been asking also to kind of like move up a little bit, little by little, in our way that we communicate with our citizens, and our citizens communicate with us. Creating that type of communication through our website maybe, where they can drop their suggestions or feedback. Maybe this could be also how they can get in touch with us, because again, I've seen some streets that got worked on maybe 20 years ago, and they're now being worked on again. And then I've seen other streets that it looks that they haven't been worked on in years. So just to have a better strategy as to how we actually take care of our streets. I mean, you see in different parts of town, west side of town, they're very, very, there's some areas that are very in need of work, and everywhere, even the new side of town also. So I think it's everywhere, but if we just can come up with a better plan, and not just, whoever kind of like scream the loudest type of thing, but let's put a more cohesive plan. That's
Absolutely, and you hit on something that just complements what I shared, and that is, there's a technical analysis work that goes behind it. That's what Lily Falomira and her staff use. You brought up a very good point. One of the reasons why we see some of the major highways within our city get paved obviously much faster than the typical street is because of what you mentioned. Obviously, right, the wear and tear, the higher traffic volumes that compared to other streets. So that is also something that gets factored in. But what I stay with in terms of what you said is maybe we can become a little bit more accessible by giving our community a way in which, in a much more efficient way, they can let us know what streets, what concerns pertaining to this program they have, and that can be a conduit where we can provide information.
Yeah. So, and now, I'm sorry,
Go-
let
go
me,
ahead,
before I
David.
forget this thought also, as we go back and work on our streets, I know that our streets have been already engineerily designed, but if we can somehow also think about maybe bicycle lanes, maybe, walkable, streets or sidewalks and all of that, because, now going through this pandemic, we see more of that, happening. And I think we need to start working on that. And that's something that SCAG, kind of like, it's very strong in recommending, more walkable, more, inviting, cities, innovating in that type of, area too. So while we do this work, I know we're asking for much, and we understand what we have as far as resources. But if we plan, if we start thinking about it, instead of kind of like going back and try to fix it when we find some money. So we can just be strategic and kind of like start thinking along those lines too. That will be great too. So something to work on also.
Absolutely.
Okay, because what I do want to add on is that I think the public needs to know that even though we have a list of in the manner that we fix streets, but it's not set in stone. I mean, we could move on, like right now, Adler. You know, I've been getting a lot of complaints about Adler Street.
And yes.
Back on the west side, and you know, that it really needs to be worked on.
Yes.
But again, I know there's a lot of streets that I'm sure we'll get to them. But if the public, like you said, if the public is aware that they could contact us or the city, then maybe we could make some changes in how the routes go.
Yes,
Okay.
Madam
Thank
Mayor,
you.
absolutely.
Okay?
I absolutely agree on walkable design and bicycle lanes and everything. One thing worth investigating is how did the county and the city of Los Angeles implement their, I think it was their crowdsourcing of road safety hazards. I think one of it was, one strategy was institutional, where they made an app where people can just report and things of that nature. But I think the other one, they also tapped into public Waze data. I'm not sure if you know, Waze is a road traffic app where you go ahead and if there's a pothole, you say there's a pothole. If that data is available to the government, it might make it easier on us.
It's part of making sure that we're up to par with technology and the services that we can use. I had a conversation with ICTC on this, and I think,
Yes.
Madam Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, you were part of that conversation when we were addressing the situation of traffic congestion on some of the main arteries,
Yes.
in terms of how we can use some of the elements that Councilmember Ureña is mentioning, so we can be a little bit more attentive to some of those needs. So absolutely, point well taken.
Motion to approve?
Okay, now, so do I have a motion?
Second.
A motion to approve. Yep.
Who did the first motion?
Yep.
Mr. Ureña.
Councilmember Ureña. Councilmember Garcia,
Aye.
Councilmember Romo,
Aye.
Councilmember Ureña,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno,
Aye.
Mayor Arreola Fernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Moving on to item 15, introduction and first reading by title only of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Calexico, California, amending Calexico Municipal Code, Section 24.210, regarding the authority to remove vehicles from sale in certain areas within the public right-of-way. Do we have a backup on that?
Madam Mayor, one of the things also right now that you alluded to our residents speaking
Yes.
up, we have received numerous calls for a long time as it pertains to for sale vehicles located on high traffic commercial areas along with residential areas that take up valuable space for people that actually live there or for visitors for either commercial businesses or for just residential areas here in town. So with that said, what this ordinance does is that it provides our code enforcement team the ability where they can go and begin to have a process where they can provide notice, where they can cite. So these for sale vehicles that are creating some type of hazard for some of our residents and business people in town, so it can get addressed. At the end of the day, this is an enforcement matter.
Yes.
And as a result of it being an enforcement matter, we need to have some teeth to work on. And I feel that this council has brought that to my attention many times. So if we have, in this case, a policy in place that we can enforce and begin to tackle this issue, I think we're going to get a little faster to where we want to be, in which we stop seeing that from occurring. With that said, I also do want to point out that as part of putting this item together, there is something also that's tied to this item that I know is of relevance to the City Council, and that is some of the issues that we have with the heavy truck traffic in Calexico. So one of the things that I do want to point out is that thanks to our Public Works manager, who brought to my attention that in March of 2000, there was a study that was requested by the City Council at the time to the Planning Department, where they come up with alternatives to address this issue. I'll be sharing this report with the 5 of you. Bottom line, what we need to do is obviously update it, because a lot of things have happened in the past 20 years as it pertains to this. It continues to be a problem, but I think we have a building block that we can analyze, that we can go back and see what's being enforced, what's not being enforced, and whatever needs to be updated will be updated. I didn't want to deviate away from the agenda item, but it's related and it's relevant, and I think it pertains to something that we need to address as well. With that said, please let me know if you have any comments or questions on the item.
Madam Mayor, just to piggyback on what Mr. Figueroa just alluded to, all these issues, but with all these issues also come, opportunity to reach out to the community, right? Inform. Enforcement, it's great, but, I know we inform, we pass this ordinance or whatever this, we pass, we notify them. So we need to make sure that we notify, we need to make sure that, we tell them, what's the process going to be like, when it comes to enforcement, because, when they get, fined, we get those phone calls, I just got fined, or, this is what happened, and they give you the side of the story. And, that's a whole different type of conversation. But, when we do this, if we can just put it out there to make sure that they're informed, we're enforcing. And again, this is not to punish, but rather to, matter of safety. I think we see a lot of cars, a lot of heavy, vehicles parked on the streets that sometimes impede that vision of when you're turning, or when you're coming, when you're going, or even when you're walking. So I think it's something that, we have to be, cognizant of all the issue, and make sure that we inform, the community. And also along these same lines, part of, what we need to do also is inform. And I know we send our water bills, sending that information out on that. Maybe also what I see is that, the street sweeper is another example that goes out and sweeps the streets, a couple of times, during the month. But, if you park your car in front of your house, they just go around and really doesn't help serve much of a purpose. So if we can somehow start, informing, the citizens, we're doing this. I remember the previous council that actually fought for that service to be available, in procuring and buying or leasing equipment, that would do that. But I think if we're not actually helping, then, it doesn't really do its purpose. So informing, of these things, and maybe some enforcement also. Just, again, we're alluding to big cities, putting a sign, just like we do, 2-hour parking, or, street cleaning, every other week, that type of thing. So little by little, I know that's money also that is needed, but it's something that we need to make sure that, we inform our citizens. And little by little, these are the things. These might not be out of the world, type of ideas, but this is something that brings quality of life, brings order, brings cleanliness, all these things that we need to have in our city. So little by little, we would love to go from one place to the next, in speed time, but I think if we take steps, with, firm steps, and I think we'll get there eventually. So if you can just think about all those things.
Absolutely,
please.
sir. Definitely. One of the things is, yes, we can consider, and you folks can give us direction on what policies to enforce, but we also owe it to our people to let them know that it's coming, right?
Yes.
And if people do not have the time to attest what happens in this forum, well, I think we need to inform those people, right? Also get to everybody. And even if that entails us incurring a cost, we should see it as an investment, so people can be educated and they can be informed of what's coming, so they can be aware.
No, but I think it would be like a good idea, maybe starting off on the days that the street cleaner,
Yes.
I know the day that my street cleaner passes, but not too many people know. So that way you send it out, say, hey, make sure that you don't have your car in the street. You know, just out of courtesy, maybe we could send out some type of a memo in the water bill saying, these days, you know, so-and-so street is gonna be cleaned at so-and-so hour. I mean, that might be helpful as well.
We can do that in partnership actually with the service provider. I mean, and make sure that we team up and we do that, so
Yeah, 'cause
absolutely.
the same way that we take out our trash.
Yes.
And, you know, we don't park in front of our trash cans, you know, so.
Right.
Something like that. I think
Absolutely.
that would be good. Okay, so, any more questions? Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve introduction of first reading by title only of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Calexico, California, amending Calexico Municipal Code Section 10.24.210 regarding the authority to remove vehicles for sale in certain areas within the public right-of-way.
I'll second that.
Councilmember Garcia,
Aye.
Councilmember Romo,
Aye.
Councilmember Urena,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno,
Aye.
Mayor Arturo Fernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Moving to item 16, award proposal of the housing element update to Kimley Horn and Associates Industry in the amount of $147,895.
Madam Mayor, this is an item that we initially put out an RFP back in November of last year. We only received one proposal. Most of the times when that happens, at least I am a little hesitant, so I like to circle things out for a second time. And when we issued the RFP for the second time back in January of this year, we received two proposals. The period for submittal closed February 11th, and once we received that, we began reviewing the proposals. One of the things that I want to share with you, and I don't want to sound like a broken record because lately I bring this up a lot, is the need for us to make sure that we are up to speed with our general plan update, with our housing element update, and all of the things that the state of California requires. Because as the Home Key Program awards come around, like for Hollies, or the Heber Park grant that was secured, I mean, all those things require for us to be up to date with some of these important elements, right? So with that in mind, when we reviewed the proposals, there is a proposal from Kimley Horn and Associates that we are recommending, because after further review, it was determined by staff that they provide the needed experience and knowledge that HCD is requiring of us as a city to conform with. In other words, they are fully competent in their previous work on working, for example, on the 6th round cycle of the Regional Housing Needs Assessment that I previously referenced in this meeting. Some of the things right now that per policy as it's changing that we need to comply with. On top of that, they have a robust team with expertise on the subject matter. And after checking and making sure that we were properly justifying and following our procurement policy, we determined that it's in the best interest of the city to go with Kimley Horn and Associates. One of the things that I do want to point out is we've been talking about change orders also and how we wish to stay away from those. One of the things that we saw from the other proposal was that there could be the potential for some change orders to happen in the future just because as we saw the proposal in terms of how it was structured and some of the elements that were going to be required to meet what the state of California is expecting of us. Right now, just so we can all be on the same page, there is an environmental justice element that now has been added on when cities update their housing element in California. Okay, Kimley Horn is actually in the realm of being able to do these types of things. So we want to make sure that we have a comprehensive housing element that complies with everything. The final thing that I do want to mention is, and that I was able to share with this council yesterday, is that one, this is not going to cost us a dime to the general fund. This is going to be paid out of the LEAP grant that we secured, that we submitted a proposal in which we mentioned that this was something that we wanted to cover. So we are now awardees of the program, and we have $150,000 at our disposition to use. In this case, as you can see, the proposal came under that threshold, so in essence, it's not going to cost the city a dime. Going back to what Councilwoman Romo mentioned, if we get an award for $150,000, and in this case, we have a proposal for $147,000, even if it's 1 penny or if it's $10,000, there are eligible activities within the grant that we can use that money on. So that money will not go to waste, it's actually going to be used. So with that said, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
So
Any
moved.
questions?
No question for me.
Second.
Who approved it?
Councilmember
First, second.
Romo, motion by Councilmember Romo, second by Councilmember Garcia. Councilmember Garcia,
Aye.
Councilmember Romo,
Aye.
Councilmember Ureña,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno,
Aye.
Mayor Arreola Fernandez.
Aye.
Motion
Okay,
passes
moving on
unanimously.
to item 17, approval of memorandum of understanding by and between City of Calexico and Imperial Community College School District, Imperial Valley College for use of facilities for purpose of providing courses and instructions for the benefit of the residents of the City of Calexico.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Do you have-
For the record, City
We
Clerk.
don't want any background on
It's
it?
free.
No, there's just one thing for the record. The template, the agreement template that you have on your backup documentation is not the one that Imperial Valley College is requesting that we follow. Mr. Efrain Silva provided an updated template. Information is the same, just the template, so we're going to be going with the updated template.
So are they going to be using what part of our facilities?
This is going to be channeled through our recreation department.
Okay,
This comes at no cost to the city. All costs associated with the program is encumbered by IVC.
Very good program.
thank you. A motion?
Councilmember Garcia,
Aye.
Councilmember Romo,
Aye.
Councilmember Ureña,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno,
Aye.
Mayor Arreola Fernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, moving on to item 18, one appointment by City Council to the Sales Tax Citizen Advisory Committee, Measure H. I think that, personally, I feel that we should bring it out again and have them, have somebody, the applications. That's how I feel. I have my person on Measure H, even though somebody said I didn't, but I do. I don't know, do you have your person on Measure H? Yes.
I don't.
Missing it.
Okay.
You don't know what in mind?
Measure H.
So,
Yeah, I think so.
if you are in agreement, Mr. Garcia, or,
Well, I guess he has, and Torreña has somebody in mind, so you were,
I have mine.
yeah.
So who's missing?
It might be me, I think. Porque no se aceptó mi papá.
Well, why don't we
So is-
have them apply, so we could review the applications?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, directions is to open it up for,
Yeah.
again, to put in their applications, and then we'll bring it up again. And we could review the applicants. Okay, so informational items. 19, information item, adopt a green area project.
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is actually an item that was also requested at a previous council meeting. At this point, I'm going to call up Ms. Liliana Falomir to give us a presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, and those watching the meeting via our social media. As our city manager stated, during our last council meeting, Councilwoman Romo requested that we provide a presentation regarding our Adopt a Green Area program. Next slide. Well, Public Works Department oversees the maintenance of the Parks Department. And part of the park maintenance, several years ago, the City Council approved our Adopt a Green Area Park, which provides the program for individuals to assist us to promote community pride and also involvement in maintaining and enhancing our green areas, parks, and facilities. Individuals, families, businesses, corporations, and organizations can apply. Also, part of the program is that we have our parks, recreation, purification, and senior services that participate. They participate by selecting the sites as well as reviewing the applications of the applicants and then approving them. Next slide. As I mentioned before, those who can participate are individual and families, but of course they must be of the age of 12 and above. It could be a civil, social, sport, school, or any nonprofit organizations, as well as business, contractors, and other government agencies. Next slide. The performance or activities that we request from our applicants are that they perform at least once a month more than one of these items, or just one, of course, assisting us with the removal of litter, helping us plant seeds, plants, shrubs, painting, helping us with the graffiti abatement, also watering, and also assisting us with weed control. Next slide. The participants are required to do, like I mentioned before, one activity per month, or if they can do more, that they're more than welcome. They also, the Adopt a Park program, it's a 2-year program. So once the application is approved, then they assist us within 2 years. Of course, they're always welcome to just let us know if they no longer can help us. But once the 2 years is over, we send them a letter informing them that their application is going to expire, and if they're more welcome to continue, then they would resubmit their application. No, thank you. It's okay. And part of it is that, of course, we require the applicants to notify us, Public Works, at least 7 days in advance, so we could know, and if any assistance is required, we can help them when they do any type of like cleaning or planting. Also, we also tell them to please be safe. We don't want to have them get hurt while assisting us in enhancing our parks. Part of the city commitment, of course, is, you know, that we sometimes provide them either equipment to help get the park clean, or sometimes they request trash bags, or if they pick up the litter, they give us a call and we'll go pick up the trash. And as a part of the appreciation, we install signs that says this park is adopted by, and then we provide the name of the person, organization, or the contractor. Next slide, please. Our Adopt a Park program does require that the participants have insurance. The city does not provide insurance coverage for the participants. So if they're going to have a big event, for an example, do cleanups, they need to provide us a additional insured certificate of liability. Next slide, please. We currently have 26 sites that can be adopted. Here's a list of all our parks, green areas, and facilities. Out of the 26, if we can go to the next slide, Gabby, please. 9 of them have already been adopted. And, you know, special thanks to Ana Rosa Reniston, Guadalupe Salcedo, the Calexico Parents Athletic League, Carmen Zuniga Estrada, as well as Jessie Garcia, our Councilwoman Gloria Romo, and ZT Baseball, Imperial Valley, who, as soon as they hear about helping us, they filled out the application. We took it before our Parks, Recreation Beautification Commission, and they were approved. So now, these were just approved on March 10th, I believe. So starting March 10th, now they have 2 years to assist us with the program. Right now, I do have 3 applications pending that we will be forwarding them over to our Parks Recreation Commission on April 14th. Next slide. Anybody who wishes to participate, you can contact us at the Public Works Department or visit our city website, and you can download the application and then
forward it over to us so we can begin the process of reviewing it and taking it before our commission for review and approval. And that's about it. If anybody has any questions.
I have one question.
Do you have any questions?
Just one. In terms of the insurance requirements, because I'm familiar with, because the city doesn't provide insurance coverage, but I believe for 1 million policy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think under $300, I think, for a year or something like that. Am I correct? Huh?
Yes, the insurance policy has been an item of discussion, and our human resources manager as well as the city manager and I have met. So we are discussing and getting pricing to see if we can put it under our city insurance.
Okay. Thank you.
So on that, going back to that, I just want to make sure that we make that very clear, whether that the city is going to, we're going to use our insurance, or we're going to ask that, people who kindly adopted these green areas and parks to have that, coverage. So if you can just go back, or someone, you can come back with that, so we can make it more clear to the citizens out there, because I recall when this came back to the council, to a previous council, that was actually the point of argument, not argument, but discussion, where, the insurance portion, like, Councilman Moreno stated, that was around that, cost. And, I don't recall if that was per, every time that they go, that they will have to kind of like pay those $300, $200, or if it is an annual.
No, it was, I think the insurance, they could get it for the annual, but it's like, for example, if they have more than 5 people go to the park to assist, do it in like more like of an event.
Okay.
Then they do require the insurance. But if it's just one person, the insurance is not required unless they do events often.
So just making that clear, because again, you were very clear as to the type of activity that they can actually conduct, in doing this cleanup or maintenance. And I just want to make sure that, we actually are very clear as to who's liable, who's not liable. And not just that this is to make more difficult, this is to make it easier for whoever wants to adopt, which, we do have a lot of people that want to do that. But let's kind of like take away, as much as possible of that, paperwork, or that, if possible, or if not, at least make it clear to whoever wants to adopt these areas.
Right. One of the reasons that we also ask them to notify us 7 days in advance, so we can know what type of cleanup or event or what they want to do to the park, and we can let them know, do you need a temporary use permit? Do you need an encroachment permit? So, a lot of people try to go above and beyond the items that we request.
True.
But that's why we have them give us a call, and that way we can direct them through the right process.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Thank
No,
you.
ma'am,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Halumir. Very good presentation, excellent presentation. And we need more people adopt a park, no? 17 people more. It's very important for the citizen of Calexico.
Yes, and what I can do for any future adoptions, we'll provide another informational item, and that way you guys know who adopted the parks.
Yeah. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to future agenda items.
I have a couple of them.
You do?
Yes, if I may. Mayor, thank you.
Yeah, will you write it down?
Thank you.
Future agenda items.
Okay, thank you. We did talk about, Mr. Figueroa was saying that we are, somewhere in the near future, we're going to get some money from the federal government. Eventually, it's going to get to our house here. I would think that public safety, both fire and public safety, are very important departments in our city. So I would venture to saying that perhaps with that money we can allocate some funds to lease some new ambulances. I know we're in need of ambulances. They break down all the time, and we all know that. And just a couple of weeks, I think we were outsourcing somebody because we had some issue with the ambulance and so forth. So to avoid that, if that money's coming and we can use it for that purpose, I think that'd be a great asset for the city. And why not throw in some police officer cars there for the chief to get out of there also, if we can. That said, brings me to another point that don't know if some of you were aware that we do have two young ladies here in our community, Yaya and Naira Oseguera, from that went to Tennessee and they competed in nationals. Yaya, 11 years old, competed in the 70 pounds boxing match, and then her sister competed who's 16 years old, competed in 132 pounds. I would like to, if it's okay with city council members here, that we do some kind of recognition. Sure. I know the family very well. I saw little girls grow up, and they invested so much time and effort, blood, sweat, and tears, however you call it, carne asada plates, barbecue plates, car watches, everything. They actually took the trip themselves. I'm sure some of the community members had contributed some financial resources, but they went out there. I just spoke to the family when they were traveling back to California, and they're here now in town. So I did promise the lady that obviously I congratulate her because it's a huge effort for these teenagers, and that's one way to promote, through our city of how we have perhaps future champions, right? So I would think maybe of some kind of recognition, Mayor, for sometime in the near future. Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Definitely. Anything else?
Yes, thank you, Madam. April information, again, and I asked for an item in the agenda, election of people for the camp today, based on the 1907 Proclamation of the Roosevelt. And finally, I propose to make a proclamation so that the month of April is the month of the city of Calexico. Because the next happy birthday for Calexico is in 16, no? April 16, yes. That's it.
We will be having a cake on the 16th. Okay? So,
Yeah.
anything else?
Eran dos, right? Uno es el encampamento and the other one is the
Yes,
Calexico.
the other is April information, detailed April information, and 3, this is only proposed to make the proclamation for month of April 16 is the month of the city of Calexico.
Okay.
All
So
month.
I'll second those two. Did we still want an update on the Chamber of Commerce at next meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Is she talking or you're talking?
I'm talking to Ms. Romo.
No. She's
It's
the one that's
question
supposed to
for
be
me,
talking.
no?
I'm sorry, you're, what is it that you want? Mrs.
No, that's it for me. That's only 3.
Okay, now, if you want to say something, you want to?
Yeah. I'm just asking Councilwoman Romo if she still wants the
she can
chamber.
speak for herself.
Yeah, I know. But I'm asking her. I mean, I'm making a question to a fellow council person.
Okay, are you done, Mr. Ramos?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
¿Todavía quieres el Chamber of Commerce?
Ya lo explicó Mr. Figueroa.
Okay, excelente.
Anything else?
I have something before on that topic with the encampment, and this goes for legal counsel. And I don't know. I don't want to throw any wrenches here in this conversation. I think it's a good thing you guys are doing. But since we're still having an active investigation, we're allowed to, even right now, do anything, touch with anything compared, because we still have an active investigation. I would think we would wait till the investigation is over. We can ask for anything because it's still to protect witnesses, evidence. I don't know what happened on that, but I understand it's an active investigation. We shouldn't even venture into asking nothing pertaining to that, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure exactly what the
Right,
request is
so-
for the encampment, but obviously, the request for the encampment, that can entail a lot of items, but obviously there's items that might have litigation related, confidential.
Just to work cautious for all of us, because we don't want to get in trouble, because I understand with active investigation, you can't really get involved until that's resolved, so.
It just, I'm not sure exactly what seeking for the encampment. There's a lot of different, encampment can mean a lot of things, I'm not sure what exactly.
I can clarify.
Okay.
But yeah, anything having to do with that item, yeah, it may have potential exposure, so it might be, some of these items might be related to closed session potentially too, but it just depends, because
I don't think that should be discussed then.
From what
No, exactly, that's what I'm saying, right now it's just direction, and depending on what exactly was wanted to look at, then we would have.
So Mr. Redeña, so just consult with him, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's his for. Yeah.
I believe Ms. Romo went ahead and asked, just to be very specific about what she's asking from what I was hearing. She wants a report on the delineation based on the Roosevelt easement and the 1948 deed of trust. It's an informational item, not necessarily having to do with any criminal investigations.
Yeah, the information would be the same that we have, okay.
Seriously, if there's any updates.
Yeah. Miguel, if we can go back, I know we're in the middle of a strategic planning, but if we can go back and not revisit, but bring back, what I would like is a comprehensive report of a, let me see, designation of downtown as a mixed use that was passed maybe more than a couple of years ago by a previous council. 2018, okay, thank you. So 2018, and I remember, that was also part of the plan to bring back, or to start working in downtown, addressing some of the issues. So if you can bring back, what, has transpired, if anything has transpired on the mixed use, how can we go back to that and beginning to work on that? Because we need to start addressing, our downtown. We need to make sure that we have a plan. I know we have discussed it in our at least that was one of the things that I mentioned in the strategic planning. But bring back that item, so we can be aware of that and how far that was discussed or what was the plan. Because I would like to see that and get moving on that option. So that's on one. Another one, if you can look into abandoned buildings. I know that lately we have had, our firefighters respond to a lot of abandoned buildings, fires or incidents. But not just because of that, again, of course, that's important, that they respond and keep, our citizens and our structures safe, and themselves safe also. But I want to make sure we can start exploring some sort of ordinance or tool that, if we can start going and identifying all those abandoned structures or buildings, maybe creating an ordinance, if they don't address, if the owner doesn't address, those issues, if we can do a lien or whatever legal avenues that we can have as a recourse to address those issues and start addressing those issues that we have, and moving on that, and make sure that we start, also moving on that direction where or cleaning up, helping and revitalizing. So as soon as possible, if you can work on that and bring some options on that. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and good night. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.